Welcome to Red35, and today we are going to look at the brand spanking new bulletproof camera, the Olympus Tough TG-5. Olympus kindly gave us this brand spanking new Tough TG-5 camera for review, and I took the opportunities to take it to Cuba for a very thorough testing. Before I get into the review, a word of advice for any budding traveling photographers out there. And as you know that you don't want to hold up a lot of gears when you're traveling, you're tiring yourself out while walking all day. What you want to do is pack as light as possible. And what I did for my trip was I packed everything into this tiny little Billingham Headley small camera bag. And yeah, I'll show you what I have in my bag for this trip. And obviously the TG-5. And I have my EM1 Mark II with the 25-1.2 Pro attached. And I have my wide angle 12 prime and my tele macro lens 60mm. These are the perfect combination for any travelings, I think, and this is plenty enough for my use. There you go, travel light. This is the latest Olympus Tough TG-5 camera and the successor for the very popular TG-4, which was launched in 2015. So it's been a while since the original, or not original, the older model, and I would say. But you know what makes this camera much better than the old one was the new features that they included in this brand new camera. Well, first of all is the 4K feature. You know, like, of course, you know, now every single consumer camera can do 4K. Even your smartphone can do 4K. So they need to have 4K video capabilities, which they did. And pretty good as well, you know, at 4K 30 frames per second, which is actually quite decent. Not spectacular, but you cannot compare this to like bigger system, of course. But in a Full HD mode, you can also do slow motion as well, which is really cool. It's kind of like a fun thing to do now. A lot of people like this slow motion thing, so you can do that with this Tough camera. So in terms of video features, it has kind of brought this camera bang up to date from the 2015 predecessor. Well, the second point is resolution of this camera sensor. And in fact, it hasn't gone up, but down from 16 to 12. Well, there's a good reason for it, because as you know, you want to shoot better in low light, especially underwater when it's dimmer. So what they did was they keep the sensor size the same as before, but reduce the resolution, which means now the pixel level is now bigger, absorbs more light, so you can get much better quality in low light. And I can guarantee that it does work very well, because during my testing, and I shot a lot of low light stuff, and it worked very well. You cannot obviously match the quality from the bigger brother like the EM1 Mark II or even the EM5 Mark II, but you know, like for a compact of this size, it is performed very decently. But the third thing is this little dial. Oh, it's very important to me because as a professional photographer, you want direct control. And I know, you know, being a compact, you cannot have a lot of dials and buttons, but one little dial means a lot to me, because I can now control the exposure compensation during the aperture priority mode, which means that I can actually dictate the exposure myself rather than let the camera do it, or have to go through a layer of menus or like buttons and knobs and things like that. You know, the dial works well in this situation. So I love this feature, and thank you Olympus for including the dials, which is really awesome. And the fourth point is a very minor thing, but I think it's actually quite important if you use a lot of accessory with the Tough camera, like the wide angle or the tele lens attachment, which, you know, can change the focal length of your cameras. Is this little locking knob thing, button thing, you know, which makes the accessory ring like a bayonet mount. So you can press it, unlock it, and then you attach your lens to it, which makes everything more secure. The reason I say that because the TG-4 had the same accessory port, but it's a screw-in mechanism, which means that there was no locking, and your accessory ring or the lens itself can come off quite easily if you are not tightening it properly. So as a safety precaution or safety feature, I think the locking mechanism works very, very well if you use a lot of the accessory. So this is really good. I think they have definitely improved that and thought about it, about feedback from other photographers who used the TG-4 before. So well done, Olympus. What about the build quality of this little camera? Well, I would say this is indestructible. It's really, really good. It's just as good as ever, just like the TG-4, TG-3 before, and it's just awesome because I think all the tough cameras are very, very solidly built because they are designed to do so. And actually, let me tell you, when I was in Cuba, I took it to all kinds of stuff. I went swimming with dolphin, I went to the beach with this, and I was taking this camera around Havana, and it was very humid. It was constantly at 38, 39 degrees Celsius and very high humidity, so it was no problem. There's not even condensation on the lens, which is actually awesome. Sometimes when coming from an air conditioning environment and coming out onto a very hot and humid street, you get condensation. This thing doesn't have it. It must have some sort of coating which kind of alleviate that, so which is really cool, really, really good. And being a family man, after especially I have a 2 4-year-old very active twins, and they always kind of trying to destroy my stuff. Really good for this because they kick this around literally, so they dropped it on the floor a couple of times and it survived and there's nothing happened to it. And because being a drop proof, freeze proof and waterproof camera, you don't have to worry about a thing. Compared to my other compact cameras that I had before, they destroy a couple before I had this tough camera. So it's really awesome, in that sense. I think a lot of people might think that this is actually for action stuff, but I think it's actually a perfect family camera. And what about one of the most important things of any camera is image quality. Well, I would say the image quality of this is actually quite decent, especially on the wide end. The reason I say that is because the wide angle side is very sharp, very nice, edge to edge is actually very good, but the tele end, right at the far end, is actually a little bit soft to my taste. And when I zoomed in, by the way, it's optical, it's not digital, so when I zoom all the way in, and I found that the detail has lost a little bit, and then the sharpness has gone down. It's noticeable, so it's actually not very good if you want to do a lot of tele shots, for instance. But the wide angle side is perfect. It's really good for video, both video and still. In 4K you can see how sharp that is, and even the image mode is just really cool. And the contrast is all there, and being a small sensor, obviously you lose the depth of field if you want to, even at f2. But if you want to achieve a little bit of the shallow depth of field, a little bit background blur, you can also do that by using aperture priority, set it to f2 and move close to the subject. You can do a little bit of that. So overall, I think it's actually pretty awesome, and I think it's definitely a step up from the TG-4. I did mention about the pixel sizes, which now is down from 16 to 12, so the low light capabilities improve, so you do get better low light shots as well. So it is good, I think for a camera for this size, at this price point, and being a tough camera, image quality is very, very decent indeed. There are a lot of things I like about this camera, but there are some negatives I would like to point out. Well, first of all, I really was hoping that the TG-5 would have a touch screen, because all the Olympus cameras that I use, like the Micro Four Third cameras, they all have touch screen, which is really cool. You can touch focus. I think it's very convenient these days, and it's kind of like a more intuitive way to operate a camera these days, especially everyone using a smartphone now. So touch screen is not a must, but I think it's actually quite good to have, especially Olympus has done it so well with other cameras, so I think they would be good to incorporate with the top cameras in the future. The second thing is battery, and I'm a little bit disappointed about the battery life of these things. especially if you do use 4K videos recording, because this is actually one of the main features they advertise is the 4K capabilities. But if you do 4K recording, this is bad. You know, the battery does not last at all. But on the flip side, they included USB charging, which means that you can actually now use your a battery bank, power bank, to recharge this thing on the go. That is kind of convenient nowadays, and I think actually this should be a feature for all future cameras, no matter what brand you're using. I think even the Micro Four Thirds system, it should be good to have a USB charging facility, because every one of us now use a smartphone, and most of us will have a power bank in the bag. So it's handy to have it, because you don't always have the opportunity to recharge your batteries, or have more than batteries that's enough to last through the day. So having USB charging is definitely a very convenient thing to do. So it does have it actually, so it's not really negative. Well, it is a negative for the battery life, but it's not a negative because they have a USB-C charging. Let's leave it at that. So the third point is the image quality of the telephoto end. And I'm not joking, I'm a little bit disappointed because it's a little bit soft, and the sharpest end is really just the wide end, and as you're zooming in, it just basically is decreasing at every level. So I'm hoping that TG-6 or future generation of this camera is going to be better, and that will be awesome, trust me, because a camera of this, if a great package of zoom and capabilities, this is like you need that telephoto end performance. And lastly, this is one of the bigger things, is the AF performance of this camera. So this thing's in good light, the AF focuses as quickly as any camera out there on the market at the moment. But I said it's a negative because in low light this thing just isn't quite there, because it still hunts quite a bit, so you cannot lock on as quick. And even though with f2 aperture increased low light performance in terms of image quality, the AF performance just doesn't quite match. But it's a big mega but is in video mode. Even the car agrees with me. And then in video mode, this thing really sucks. I'm really just disappointed, because this thing now shoots 4K, which is really awesome. So let me tell you why. There are two reasons, and there are two focusing mode in video mode. It's AFC, which is continuous focus, or manual focus. Right, let me talk about AFC first. Continuous focus, it works if it locks onto your subject well and tracks it well, but it does not, and it still drifts in and out a little bit. Especially now you're shooting in 4K, so you can see every single little details. When you drift the focus a little bit, you can see it very clear. I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. So now you're thinking maybe, okay, for a lot of videographers out there, they use manual focus anyway because they don't trust the computer so much. And like Tracy, who's filming now, just using manual focus. But manual focus on this thing also sucks. I'm telling you, I'm just disappointed and frustrated. Why is that? Because once you do the manual focus, once you focus your subject, okay, that's cool. Okay, focus now. Okay, it doesn't drift anymore. Yes, it doesn't drift. But once you press record, it doesn't even let you refocus anything. So you're stuck with that focus, like basically until you press stop. So that sucks, because you cannot change the focus. That means you cannot even move in and out with your subject to readjust your focus. You just cannot do any of that at all. So that is really disappointing in terms of manual focus. And I'm really begging Olympus, please release a firmware update to change that, so you can readjust your focusing in manual mode at least, even though your AFC doesn't quite live up to expectation. But in manual mode, please, just can I readjust the focus while recording? That's really annoying. So what do I think of the TG-5? Well, I love it and I hate it at the same time. I mean, I really love it, and my wife love it because it's just so simple to use. And as a pro, I appreciate all these little details like the dials, like the 4K videos, and the colors and sharpness of these things. I think is brilliant. I think it's pretty good. But it's a big but as well, like I mentioned earlier. Is now, even though it's given us 4K capabilities, but it's all these limitations that I told you about, the MF, the AF, and it's a hindrance. It's like you're giving you something but you're taking it back. again, it's kind of weird. Even if you use OiShare app, you know, okay, I try to use it as a vlogging camera, but obviously I cannot see myself. It hasn't got a tilty flippy screen. So I use my phone apps. Hopefully I can do that myself. But then if I switch to the app, it only allows me to record at 1080. And it's limited to only 30 frames per second, and you cannot do anything else apart from just using the app AF to do it, which is kind of sucks really. And finally, you know, this camera is great. I mean, I think it's really, you know, a big step up from the TG-4, and I think its image quality is definitely better, especially in low light. So, you know, bringing it down from 16 to 12 is definitely a good step, and I think you don't need more than 12 for a compact camera like this. I think it's brilliant. And being built such a tough camera, which means that you can throw all kinds of things to it and you'll still survive. And as a family man with 2 kids who likes to destroy things, this is perfect, especially. And if you're an action guy who likes to go hiking, mountain biking, do all kinds of stuff, this is also great. And scuba diving, yeah, brilliant. It's waterproof, and you can even get a waterproof housing. You can go even deeper if you go diving. Ultimately, I think the Olympus TG-5 tough camera is definitely one of the best on the market at the moment, and I would recommend it wholeheartedly. Even though with the limitation on the 4K video capabilities, but it's just a joy to use. I really enjoyed it in Cuba, and I love it. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for future Olympus product reviews and update. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and the links are all down below in the description. Until next time, goodbye.